Alright, let's go ahead and talk about Alyss, but the first thing that you need to know is that this was done on the test server and it has a lot of input lag. Due to that, you might get better values than what is shown in this video. And she was tested using an average Frost main player's stats. But of course she comes out once 2.3 is live and Kawasa does plan to row for her, so if you're up early enough, be sure to check out a stream over at Kawasa Gaming to see how she stacks up in the live server. And I also want to give a special thanks to Kawasa. You already know to check him out over at Kawasa Gaming, especially if you need those FC or 8 carries, if you're on Solaris, and Kaz or my Claudia Matrixy expert. These two are essential in helping me test out these characters. And I also want to give a special thanks to Ridley, best Discord moderator who helps keep me on track. Alright, now let's go ahead and talk about Alyss's playstyle. So if you're not using Claudia Matrices, Frost is simple to play. You're trying to maintain Lynn's field and use your Saki skill reset on either Lynn or Alyss. Other than that, you can freeform and discharge with either Alyss or Saki. Ideally, you want to do Saki for when you have her Fantasia, but you're going to be discharging constantly, so Frost is nigh unkillable with how many iframes and self-healing it has. But an important thing to note is that Frost gains a lot of charge, so you're going to have moments to where you're able to do 2 to 3 discharges in a row, which involves just swapping between Alyss and Saki during this time to trigger all of those. So now let's go ahead and talk about her Ascension levels. Now I want to go ahead and state that these are the CN values because they asked us not to show her Ascensions because they could change once they hit the live server. Starting with her A1, which is pretty much mandatory, which allows Alyss to create a clone of herself once she activates her skill. So when you use a skill on a different character, that clone will do the skill also. But on top of that, that extra skill is considered a discharge. This is one of the things that allows Claudia Matrices to synergize very well with Alyss. For her A3, it's a slight damage increase and it's not very hard to build up the stacks, but I wouldn't say that it's necessarily mandatory. A5, it's another damage increase, but it also has a quality of life feature to where it can help you cheat death. And A6 is essentially another damage increase, to where I would say that A1 is your mandatory ascension, while the rest of the ascensions are more for damage increases / quality of life purposes. And lastly, we need to talk about Alyss's trait, to where this rivals Samir's trait, to where Samir can give you a 20% final damage, but if you get hit, you start losing some of that damage. Whereas Alyss gives you an 18% and all you need to do is cast a weapon skill. On top of that, Alyss's clone using her A1 works for physical, flame, and bolt weapons as well. Alright, now let's get to the fun part, the DPS calculations. And this is what we're working with, over 10k crit and 20,000 frost attack to simulate someone who is maining the frost element. So the O-comp consisted of Lynn, Saki, and Frigg, with Lynn using a 3-star 4-piece Saki, Saki using a 3-star 4-piece Lynn, and Frigg using a 3-star 4-piece Claudia. And the max damage that they were able to get in a minute and 30 seconds is 57 million. Now for the Alyss comp, which consisted of Lynn, Alyss, and Saki, with Lynn using a 3-star 4-piece Saki, simulating Saki matrices, as well as her using 3-star 4-piece Claudia, simulating Claudia matrices. Alyss used a 3-star 4-piece Lynn, whereas Saki used no matrices, a 0-star 4-piece Alyss matrices set all the way up to her 3-star 4-piece matrices set, as well as using a 3-star 2-piece Shiro, 3-star 2-piece Samir. So here are the results of the Alyss comp in a minute and 30 seconds. 0-star Alyss with Saki matrices was able to pull out 27 million. 0-star Alyss with Claudia matrices was able to pull out 27 million. And both with their 0-star 4-piece was able to pull out 36 million. 0-star Alyss with Saki using DPS matrices was able to pull out 38 million. 1-star Alyss using Saki matrices, she was able to pull out 38 million. 1-star Alyss using Claudia matrices was able to pull out 38 million as well. And using a 0-star 4-piece, they both were able to pull out 45 million. And 1-star Alyss with Saki using DPS matrices was able to pull out 47 million. 3-star Alyss using Saki matrices was able to pull out 39 million. 3-star Alyss using Claudia matrices was able to pull out 39 million as well. And both, using a 0-star 4-piece, were able to pull out 46 million. 3-star Alyss with Saki using DPS matrices was able to pull out 51 million. 5-star Alyss using Saki matrices was able to pull out 42 million. 5-star Alyss using Claudia matrices was able to pull out 42 million as well. And both, using the 0-star 4-piece matrices, was able to pull out 52 million. And 5-star Alyss with Saki using DPS matrices was able to pull out 58 million, surpassing the old comp. 6-star Alyss using Saki matrices was able to pull out 44 million. 6-star Alyss using Claudia matrices was able to pull out 44 million as well, and both using 0-star 4-piece Alyss matrices were able to pull out 54 million. 6-star Alyss with Saki using DPS matrices was able to pull out 68 million. And 6-star Alyss using her 3-star 4-piece matrices for both comps using Saki and Claudia matrices were able to pull out 72 million. And here is the 30-second rotation. Alright, now let's discuss the pure Frost comp consisting of Frigg, Alyss, and Saki. With Frigg using a 3-star 4-piece Saki, Alyss using a 3-star 4-piece Frigg, as well as a 3-star 4-piece Claudia, and a 3-star 2-piece Shiro, 3-star 2-piece Samir. With Saki using a 3-star 4-piece Alyss. Alyss using a 3-star 4-piece Frigg was able to do 60 million. Alyss using a 3-star 4-piece Claudia was able to do 65 million. And Alyss using a 3-star 2-piece Shiro, 3-star 2-piece Samir was able to do 67 million. And here is the 30-second rotation. Okay, now let's take a look at some free-to-play / low spender teams. And this is using the max star level of the characters as well as matrices since we can't lower down star levels. We also use the stats of an average player, starting out with Tsubasa, Alyss, and Saki. With Tsubasa using a 3-star 4-piece Shiro, Alyss using a 3-star 2-piece Crow, 3-star 2-piece Samir, and Saki using a 3-star 2-piece Crow, 3-star 2-piece Samir. And their max damage in a minute and 30 seconds was 37 million. And here is the 15-second rotation. Then going completely standard, we have Tsubasa, Alyss, and King. With Tsubasa using a 3-star 4-piece Shiro, Alyss using a 3-star 2-piece Crow, 3-star 2-piece Samir, and King using a 3-star 2-piece Crow, 3-star 2-piece Samir. And their max damage in a minute and 30 seconds is 32 million. And here is the 15-second rotation. And now for the disclaimer / notice section. And the first thing I want to mention is the testing environment. So where you might be able to pull out better numbers than we did because there is a lot of input lag on the test server. For example, Kawasa is able to pull out 72 million using his Frigg comp on the live server, whereas on the test server, he was only able to do 57 million. On top of that, we use Shiro and Samir for the DPS matrices, but Crow is better than Shiro as long as you have over a 70% crit rate. And due to the limited amount of standard matrices for free-to-play / low spenders, we use Crow for most of the testing, so you should be able to get better values than what we got outside of the Cactus testing. And number 2, Claudia matrices. You'll notice that Claudia matrices and Saki matrices pretty much equal each other, but outside the Cactus environment, we feel that Claudia matrices will be better due to that lower skill cooldown, allowing you to discharge more with multiple enemies. But even so, Saki is not far behind. And 3, Alyss matrices are good, but not necessarily a must pull, especially if you have Saki matrices, because they both work in the background, and it seems with the values that we had on the test server, they seemed about a 10% increase from Saki matrices, as well as DPS matrices was only a 4 million difference from Alyss matrices. Well, hopefully you guys enjoyed this, and consider subscribing. I do daily videos on Tower of Fantasy to help prevent you from making mistakes in the game. But other than that, talk with you guys later.